Hey guys, welcome back to For StarCraft 2 Strategy, your number one location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Zerg strategy. Basically what we're going to be looking at is a fast expand into Speedlings, using the Speedlings to get some map control, to keep our Terran opponent in their base, and then moving into Lair tech and getting Hydras. Hydras doing very strongly against Terran ground, Marines, and Marauders. Hydras just do so much damage that can absolutely be devastating. So yeah, in this particular strategy replay, the players we're looking at, our Zerg player here is Hydra, and the Terran opponent is Warshop. Gonna go ahead and move straight into Hydra view. Now, quick things to note at the start, moving out with that Overlord, obviously want to do that. Send it straight to your opponent's base, put it in a nice location outside of their base, but poking in just a little bit to get some vision, to get some scouting as to what's going on. You can do that Overlord clamp by putting an Overlord on either side of the entrance. It's kind of going to give you a good idea of what's going on in their base, unless they're building in a centralized location. But of course, they are always going to be building at the front. Terran players will always be building at the front versus Zerg, because there is that gigantic threat of Zerglings, Speedlings, just running inside of your base, and you don't want that to happen to you as a Terran player, so blocking off is always the smart thing to do versus Zerg opponents. Starting off, just going for that economy, we did decide to go for that extractor before the spawning pool. This is going to allow us to get gas quickly, and it's also going to allow us to be able to research the speed upgrade for our Zerglings as soon as the spawning pool is done created. So we did go ahead and we got the extractor at 14, and then of course we got that spawning pool at 14 as well. The second that extractor came up, we went ahead and saturated it. So again, what this is going to do is once the spawning pool is done building, we're going to have enough gas to go ahead and start researching that speed upgrade right away. This is going to help us deal with any early threats such as Reapers. Reapers are very strong versus Zerg early on, up until the point that Zerglings get that speed upgrade, or until we get Roaches. So we're going to, of course, choose to go for that speed upgrade instead, because Speedlings are much more useful to us than Roaches. Roaches are just so very slow off creep. It's kind of harder to contain your Terran opponent with Roaches, but with Speedlings, there's always that threat of you running into their base, so they're much more terrified of that, and they're much more likely to stay inside of their base for the most part. Moving in, getting some scouting information. We see the orbital command. We saw this free Vespian geyser here, so we just went ahead and dropped our extractor on it. Extractor costing so little minerals for Zerg that it's kind of really worth it to put it on there and deny them that extra gas. It's also going to give you some good information as to what they're doing, because whatever they end up killing this with, it's kind of going to tell you what's going on. If he moves up a Marauder or Marine up here, you're going to know that that's what you're seeing. If he moves up a Hellion, you can expect Hellions. You know, if he moves up a Reaper, obviously you can expect a Reaper inside of your base. Now, our Terran opponent here is, of course, moving into our base with that scouting SCV. Not sure, in fact, if he did see... Yes, okay, so he did see our extractor there, so he does know that we're not going for that super fast expand, but we are going for a fast expand nonetheless. We did end up dropping this at about 20 supply. I will get that exact number in the build order that's going to be placed in the video information at the bottom, right down there. I'm pointing right now, but it's not doing anything because you guys can't see me. So, moving up, we saw that factory there for a brief moment, and I'm sure Hydra was paying attention to it. He moved up. He got just enough vision to see that factory that was floating there, and we will eventually be confirmed of that when we do see Hellions. So yeah, we're going ahead and going for this fast expand. Again, we're using these Speedlings. Going to be Speedlings shortly. We're going to be using these Speedlings to kind of contain our opponent, also to get a good idea of what's going on. We're going to see a push before it happens by having them outside of his base there. Moving our Queen down so we can go ahead and spawn some larvae as soon as this hatchery does come up. And again, so far, basically what we've been doing is just working on a strong economy, working on our macro. We're not too worried about an early push yet, because we do have the scouting information and we haven't seen anything quite yet. So now that this hatchery is up, something you are going to want to do is have this spine crawler ready. So you do want to go ahead and start creating that before the hatchery finishes building. This is going to protect you from garbage like this. It's going to protect you from Hellion harass. You want to go ahead and drop this at a nice location. If possible, like on this map, a spot between your expansion and your main, like right by a ramp here. Really good, because it kind of deters them from going in either direction. If they go up the ramp, they're going to get poked. If they move in towards this hatchery, they're going to get poked. Of course, they can more easily run behind the mineral line here, but all it really takes is some good micromanagement, pulling your workers back so they don't get that flame shot right to the face, and then moving in with your Speedlings as soon as you get in a good position like we did there. So Speedlings were able to catch up to those Hellions, and they did, of course, take them out. So as you can see here, we are moving up to that Lair tech. Again, what we're looking to do here is that Speedling Contain, that Speedling Harassment, into Hydralisks. Of course, because Hydralisks do so much damage, they're going to be very effective of taking out units that your Terran player is going to have early on in the game, your Terran opponent's going to have early on in the game. So we're just trying to keep a good idea of what our opponent's doing, trying to keep some vision on their base, get an idea of when they're moving out. If you saw a huge push coming, you would of course want to make some more Zerglings, some more Speedlings to back up. Also, this is going to help you a ton, Spine Crawlers. Spine Crawlers, a very strong defensive unit, defensive building for Zerg, and almost always, when you're attacked, if you're setting up a defense location such as this at the front of your expansion, if you are attacked from your opponent, bring your queens down and use that transfuse ability. It is going to significantly bolster the effectiveness of these spine crawlers, and you're going to see here we are in fact going to transfuse them once they start to get low. Only moving in with our Speedlings when we're able to get us around. We don't want to move in when they're going to line us straight up in a row and then shoot flame into our face and blow us up. You want to make sure that you can get us around, because again, that's when Zerglings are most effective. And again, just use that transfuse ability whenever these spine crawlers get low, and they're just going to be so strong at warding off any attack there. If those spine crawlers were not there, and we had the amount of Zerglings that we did, which wasn't too many because of this fast expansion, if it weren't due to these spine crawlers, that push that we just saw definitely would have took us out. That was a lot of Marauders and a lot of Hellions, heck of a lot of damage, and the Hellions would have just burnt through our Zerglings. But basically what we were able to do is we were able to keep our Zerglings back, let the spine crawlers poke at them, and then once we were able to get into a position where we could get a surround on them with our Zerglings, that's when we moved them forward and they got that surround and were able to take them out. So while you're teching up here, while you're moving up to the Lair, while you're moving up to getting the Hydralisks, and as you can see, we are also upgrading the groove spines for the Hydralisks that increase range. That's very necessary. In fact, always you want to definitely try to get that upgrade for your Hydralisks. It's going to increase their effectiveness greatly. They're not going to have to move as close to the units, and they're going to be able to start attacking earlier. Obviously, the faster you can attack, the earlier you can attack because of distance, the better off you're going to be, the more damage you're going to do, and the more likely your Hydralisks are to survive. Now, we do see here that he is planning on expanding soon. Seeing this, we kind of realize internally, well, this is a good time to respond. This is a good time to push out. What do I have? So we're going to take a look at what we have. We've got a few Zerglings, not too many, but we are producing some more units. We are going to be producing some Hydralisks as well as some Zerglings very shortly, because basically what we're going to attempt to do is he's going to be dumping resources into this expansion. We're going to try to take advantage of the fact that he's doing that by hitting him with a strong army. And again, we've had these two bases up long before him. We have a huge economic advantage. We're going to be able to come out with a lot of units very quickly, and we're going to use that to our advantage. We're going to push out with that. Making use of these Zerglings rather than wasting them and having them sit around. If this push that we're about to do didn't end up working, we would then want to move into this next expansion. You always want to try to make sure as Zerg you maintain one more expansion at least than your opponent. So if your opponent has their main base and then one expansion, you want your main base and two expansions, and then it just moves forward from there. So we're coming out with these Hydralisks. We have 8 more in production right now. We're going to be doing what we can to take out these rocks, and then once these additional Hydralisks come out, we are going to be pushing forward. Another thing you can see that we're doing here to help our attack, we're actually moving some Overlords down. Obviously very slow at the moment. We have not yet researched that upgrade, but we're going to be moving them down to try to spew creep, and this is going to help the effectiveness of our Hydralisks in battle because they are going to be able to move quicker, and also we are moving up these spine crawlers. Not a bad idea. Bring some Overlords up, spew some creep, and move up the spine crawlers to help your offense. Definitely can be very effective, can be very strong. So once they do eventually get there, we're going to start spewing creep, but in fact we are actually in this particular replay going to win the game before that point, so it wasn't really necessary. But I did just want to explain to you why we're doing what we're doing, why those Overlords were moving forward. So as you can see, this is exactly what I was talking about. Hydralisks do so much damage versus these Terran ground units early on. Even with the stim pack available, you can just see how quickly the Hydralisks were able to mow them down. In fact, we did not even have to move in any Speedlings as well. That was solely Hydralisk power. took out almost all of his forces, took out the frontal defenses that he had there, and our Terran player goes ahead and calls a good game, because at this point he realizes pretty much over. So yeah, again, this has been a Zerg strategy. We looked at a fast expand using Speedlings to contain and to get good vision of what our opponent is doing, and then moving into quick Lair and Hydralisk tech. So again, this has been a really strong strategy for Zerg players versus Terran opponents. I'm going to take a look at that build real quick. Basically what we looked at here, we got that Extractor at 14 supply, followed that up with the spawning pool. Again, getting that Extractor first so we can get the Vespian to research that Speedling upgrade as soon as possible. Now after that, we created a couple Zerglings, we moved in, we tried to see if there's any early pressure coming out. We didn't see anything coming anytime soon, so we went ahead and moved forward with getting our expansion, moving our hatchery to our natural. Now at this point you are of course very vulnerable. Something I've said in many of my past videos is that if your opponent expands, they're going to be vulnerable for a certain amount of time, and if you're able to hit them hard enough, you can take advantage of that, you can exploit that fact and take them out early. So in order to protect ourselves from this happening, we created some spine crawlers. We started off with just the one to fend off that Hellion attack, coupled with some queens, and then we put even more spine crawlers, ending up with 4 spine crawlers, using the Queen's Transfuse and using the Speedlings only when we can get a good surround from that push. And as you can see, basically, had that push happened with those Hellions and those Marauders that our Terran player did, had we not had those spine crawlers, it's very likely he would have taken us out. So if you do go for this type of strategy where you're expanding early, make sure you have some sort of defense to prevent yourself from getting wiped out from an early push. So again, after we put up this natural, after we started to saturate it, we did of course start upgrading our initial hatchery to a Lair, and then once a Lair was up, we went for a Hydralisk Den, upgrading that Hydralisk range, and then pushing out when we saw our opponent finally starting to expand. We ourselves took advantage of the fact that they were expanding and didn't have as much of an army as a result. So again guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 Strategy, your #1 location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. If you guys like what we're doing here and you like what you see, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. So we're going to be pushing forward, taking a look at what our opponent has. Few Zerglings right there. Obviously not going to do too much against these roaches. Up until the point that they can get speed and get a big surround on our roaches, they just basically get burnt up by this little acid spit that we've got going on here.